start a promotion like the first 250 people or 500 people that come in get a load of dirt. Have you seen all the dirt we have out here? So I think we can start that promotion soon. You guys may want to put on a poncho or something because you're kind of in the spit zone here. But I think I feel a little closer to you if I'm down here. You know, it was in the days when ice cream cost a whole lot less than it does today that a little boy walked into a local diner and he asked the waitress how much for an ice cream sundae. And the waitress said, an ice cream sundae is 50 cents. And so he thought about how much money he had and he pondered it for quite some time and he asked the waitress again. He said, so how much for just a plain cup of ice cream? And by this time, people were filing in. It was getting busy, and the waitress was getting a little frustrated. And she said, a cup of ice cream is 35 cents in a rather terse tone. And the boy said, I'll take a cup of just plain ice cream. And so he ate his plain ice cream. She put the bill down on the table. He left his money and walked out after finishing. She came over to clean up, and she was astonished to find 50 cents. He had thought about leaving her a tip, so much so that he took something that cost less. And you know, we often look at kids for our example of thoughtfulness. Now, I think sometimes we think they're just inherently selfish, and perhaps that's true. But at the same time, we also see them show some acts of thoughtfulness and kindness that maybe we can learn from. I was at the baseball game the other night watching AJ and Gray, and there's these two little sweet girls in front of me, and one of them had a popsicle, and she would take a lick and then lean over and give it to, I guess it was her sister, let her have a lick, and they went back and forth for several minutes. Thoughtfulness, something that we severely need in our culture today. You know, hopefully by now that you've noticed there is a great dichotomy between the Christian life and the world. You know, our world doesn't promote thoughtfulness. Our world promotes selfishness. And the reason why we don't fight that too much is because, quite frankly, we're okay with it, aren't we? I mean, we like the self-entitlement. We like a culture that caters to us. You know, even if we don't like to admit it, we like it. We don't always see past our own nose. We don't always think to act or to do something kind or thoughtful because we're so busy in our own little world. You know, we sing this song, This Little Light of Mine, and thankfully James grabbed hold of something I said, it's been several years ago now, that this is not a little light, this is a big light. And it's our job as Christians to shine this big light in a world that so desperately needs illuminating. And one of the things that hopefully we're illuminating is just simple Christianity. Simple acts of kindness and thoughtfulness and things of that nature. Because as I've said so many times before, people typically don't care how much you know until they know how much you care about them. And I was thinking about this sermon, and this week I was thinking about all the acts of thoughtfulness that maybe I have done during the week. And I got to be honest with you, it's pretty hard to come up with some. I was at the hospital last week, and I did hold the elevator for somebody who was coming up. The doors were about to shut. I held the doors open so that she could come in. I was at Stripes. I let somebody get in front of me because obviously she was frantic trying to get to work, so I let her cut in line in front of me. But before I pat myself on the back too much, I have a hard time thinking about all the ways that I've shown kindness or thoughtfulness. They're very few. Unfortunately, I get wrapped up in my own little world, and I don't think about it too much. And I don't see past my own nose like I should. You know, when it comes to thoughtfulness, many folks just don't think about it because there's so many other things vying for their attention. And I think we sometimes give ourselves a ready-made excuse. It's the thought that counts, right? I thought to do good. I thought about doing something. I didn't follow through, but hey, after all, at least I thought about it. In our culture, that's enough. In a culture that is so selfish and so consumed with self, just even the thought of doing something else is a small step. It's something, right? But think about it this way. Is it really something? I mean, if you have a thought that doesn't follow through to action, what does it really count for? I think I can show you from a biblical sense, from a Christian perspective, it's not the thought that counts. It's the action. You know, when my grandfather was dying, he was the hospital, and I had every intention to go up there and spend more time with him. Here's someone who is the greatest mentor in my life, someone who meant more to me than anyone else up to that point. I had every intention to spend more time with him, but I didn't. But it's the thought that counts, right? Not really. If a brother or sister is without clothing, James says, and in need of daily food, and one of you says to them, "Go in peace, be warmed and filled," and yet you do not give them what is necessary for their body, what use is that? James says, "Go in peace, be warmed, and be filled." Those sound like words of concern on the part of one who is saying them. That's something, right? But James is saying, hold on a second. Not necessarily. If you had the ability to meet that need and you did not, then it's not good enough. Thoughtfulness cannot merely express itself in words. James even says, what use is that? Thoughtfulness is demonstrated in what we do to carry out the action. What does a thought count for? You ever thought about that? What does a thought really count for? We always say it's the thought that counts, but for what? What does a thought in the absence of action really count for? In our society, the thought carries great value, as we already said, but what does it really mean? Just to think about it, is that enough? Does that really do anything? Especially when you consider that Christianity is all about doing. It is a doing religion. Many of us can recite Bible facts. Many of us know the Bible, very well. We even know it in Greek, some of us. But what does that do? Are we seeking to transform lives? Are we seeking to transform our own life? Do we have a thought that translates into action? Because, as you've heard me say over and over again, it's not just what you know, it's what you do with what you know. And by and large, people in the world don't really care what you know. They want to know, do you care about them? And if given the choice between doctrine, what is right teaching, and what is love, they're going to pick love every time. So we show love in order to teach, right? So it's not the thought that counts, it's the doing that really counts. Ultimately, I didn't spend more time with my grandfather. I had every intention of doing that, but I didn't. And so where does that leave me? The story is told of a preacher and his wife who went to a member's house for a meal. And the meal was delicious. The wife did an outstanding job with the meal. But the preacher and his wife noticed that the husband never complimented his wife on the meal. And that kind of surprised him. And so the preacher later on pulled the man aside and he said, "Why haven't you complimented your wife or praised her? This meal was delicious." And he said, "Well, she knows when I don't like something because I tell her." What a jerk, right? I think I'd want to slap that guy in the face. Sadly, the philosophy is all too common. We take thoughtfulness for granted. We'll tell you when we don't like something, but otherwise, we don't say anything, just assume that it's okay. I don't think we need to assume anything. I think we need to be free with our compliments. I think we need to be free with our actions that show kindness and thoughtfulness. I think we need to be leading the way on that. I think we need to be a people who show thoughtfulness and kindness to those around us. Not because it's the right thing to do, that's part of it, but also because that's who we are. It's not just about an action, it's about your character. Who lives inside of you? Who resides in your heart? If you answer Jesus, if you answer the Spirit, then you're going to be led in a direction that shows thoughtfulness and kindness. You're going to act. You're going to do something. When I was working with the North Heights Church in Batesville, Arkansas, we had an elder by the name of Tom Tackett. And Tom was the type of elder that just had a sixth sense about things. He knew when someone needed that just right word of encouragement or a pat on the back or a hug, consolation of some kind. Just one of those guys. I don't know how he did it. He was just always aware. And he made such a difference. It never surprised anybody that Tom Tackett would say the right thing or do the right thing, because that's just who he was. And it wasn't just something that he was intentional about, it was who he was. It was his character. He was always that way. He wasn't just that way to some certain people. Anybody who knew him knew that that was the kind of person he was. It's easy for some of us to show thoughtfulness in certain situations to certain people, but if you're consumed with Christ, then it's about character. It's who you are, and it motivates everything you do. Remember in Genesis chapter 13 where Abraham and Lot come to this impasse? You know, their flocks had grown so large that there was strife among their herdsmen, and they were going to go their separate ways. And notice what it says in verses 8 and 9. It says, "Please let there be no strife between you and me, nor between my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are brothers. Is not the whole land before you? Please separate from me. If to the left, then I will go to the right. If to the right, then I will go to the left." Now keep in mind that Abraham was under no obligation to do anything for Lot. He could have easily have said, "Hey, God gave me all this, you go find somewhere else." He didn't have to give Lot anything. But because of the character of Abraham, because he was such a good man and a thoughtful man, he told Lot, "You choose. You take what you want, I'll take the rest." You know, he could have easily have pulled rank here, but he doesn't. And he would have been well within his right to say, "I'm older, you got to listen to me," but he doesn't. Abraham shows simple thoughtfulness and kindness here. And we need more of this. We need more of this in our own little world. We need it in the world at large. You know, when I'm trying to decide on what to preach on, and I usually plan it out for most of the year, I usually try to think about, okay, what is needed in our congregation? What are people going through? What are they struggling with? A lot of times on Sunday night, try to do more of something that's more conversational or discussion-wise, or something that, you know, is less, you know, in-depth or academic or something of that nature. This may be as basic as it gets right here, folks. We just need to be thoughtful. And I think sometimes we can pass over these things. We can look past the easy things like kindness and thoughtfulness and generosity and goodness because we're focused on the bigger things. When at its base level, what Christianity is about being thoughtful and kind and loving. And we should lead the way in this area. We should be thoughtful people. We need more thoughtfulness. We need more people that are, instead of retreating to themselves, seeking to be thoughtful. Instead of assuming the worst in people, let's show them thoughtfulness. And I think there's way too much of that in our world today as well. We're always thinking about who's out to get us. We're assuming the worst in people. Someone does something kind or thoughtful for us, and we're like, what's their angle? What are they wanting? We always kind of have some conspiracy theory going on in our mind. Just be thoughtful. Take it for what it is and reciprocate it. Act on it. Of course, the ultimate example of selflessness and thoughtfulness is who? It's Jesus, right? On the cross, as he's being tortured, as those nails are being driven through his wrists, through his feet, as that crown of thorns was pushed down hard upon his head, he thought of others. Philippians 2, 6 through 8 says, "Although he existed in the form of God, he did not regard equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself, taking the form of a bondservant, and being made in the likeness of men, being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. And while he was on the cross, he thought of others. He looked down from the cross, and he saw his mother and John standing nearby. And he said to his mother, 'Woman, behold your son.' And he said to the disciple whom he loved, 'Behold your mother.'" In his dying moments, he thought about his own mother and about his dear friend, and he wanted them to be taken care of even after he was gone. He wanted to make sure that his poor mother, who had to stand there and watch his death, would not be left alone. And then, of course, wanted to make sure that John would have someone to care for him as well. And then you'll remember that right before he dies, he says to God, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do. In his dying moments, he prayed for the very people that were inflicting harm upon him. In the throes of agony, he showed thoughtfulness for the very people who were persecuting. So I think we have no excuse for not showing thoughtfulness and not acting on it. The cross was for us. We should have been the one hanging there, but Christ endured it for us. I mean, how thoughtful is that, right? That he had us in mind when he left the comforts of heaven and entered into a fallen world. He had us in mind as he was being flogged, as he was being tortured, as he was hanging on the cross. Certainly, that is an act of love, but it's an act of love whose thrust is thoughtfulness. But you think about this. What if he hadn't done that? I know it's a silly thought, but what if he hadn't done that? What if he had just thought, it would be nice if I went to the cross. That would be a really good thing to do, but I don't think I can do that. Where would we be today? Would that thought have counted for anything? Obviously not. The only way it counted was because he did something about it. He saw our great need, and he went to extreme measures to meet that great need. And thank God that he did. So, the challenge for you this week is to be more thoughtful. I'm not saying you're not. Many of you are some of the most thoughtful people that I have ever come across. Some of you I don't know as well, but I know that you're probably thoughtful. But I think we could all be even more thoughtful. We always talk about going out and changing the world. One way we can do that is just by simply being kind and thoughtful to other people. And maybe that's a springboard into spreading the gospel. Let's pray. Our most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we are so blessed by the resurrection and for what it means to us. It means everything, God. And we thank you so much for sending your Son, for him dying that cruel death on a cruel cross, rising again 3 days later. We thank you, God, for what it means for all of us, and pray that we don't just remember it once a year, once a week, but every day. And we pray that we can be thoughtful, that we can show simple kindness to others and allow it to lead to a discussion, perhaps, on the wonderful, wonderful gift of your Son. Please allow us, Lord, to with boldness and courage share the gospel message in the hopes of converting many. In your Son's precious name we pray. Amen. Maybe there's someone here tonight that could use prayer. I don't recall a time in our church family in the 9 years I've been here where we've had more sickness and death in a 6 or 8 month amount of time. A lot of times it comes in waves, but it doesn't last this long. I had the opportunity this past week, to go and pray for little Landry Robinson. She is a Wiley student who has suffered with brain cancer for many years. The opportunity to coach her brother on our baseball team, got to know that family a little bit, and to see Landry and for her to give me a thumbs up when I left, and now to have her lose her life and to this despicable disease known as cancer. I mean, that's tough. Most of the death I deal with are with Christians who've lived a long and fruitful life, and at a ripe old age they leave this world. But at 14, that's awfully soon, isn't it? And it just brings to mind that there are a lot of people in our world that are struggling with a lot of different things. And so if we can help you with that, please let us. And if you're ready to put on Christ in baptism tonight, then why would you delay that? Whatever needs you might have, come now as we stand and as we sing.